The brilliant sunlight of an early summer morning streamed through the windows of our penthouse apartment where I, Lily, 30 years old, was preparing a hearty breakfast for my beloved husband Ethan, as if that light wanted to highlight the happiness of our 3-year marriage. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee blended with the soft jazz playing from the speaker, and I smiled gently, my heart filled with joy, thinking about the sweet moments we had shared, from dazzling dinner parties to the luxurious trips we had once dreamed of. In that moment, the kitchen was filled with the delicious scent of hot pancakes, and I felt a perfect peace, as if the whole world was rooting for our love. Ethan and I were the couple our friends admired, a luxurious apartment overlooking the shimmering river, an interior design studio growing under my leadership, and a stable income from his job as a financial advisor. The glowing pictures on social media, the times we held hands at events, all seemed to prove a love that nothing could shake like a perfectly crafted interior design. But just as I placed the plate of pancakes on the table, Ethan's phone, left on the kitchen counter, suddenly lit up like an unexpected crack in a flawless painting. A message appeared, and it made my heart feel like it was being crushed. The blood in my veins stopped flowing, as if the sunlight outside could no longer chase away the creeping darkness. Ethan, my love, will you stay with me tonight? I've booked the most luxurious suite at the city's top hotel, just to spoil you. Don't let your naive wife ruin this moment. 1,000 burning kisses. Veronica, Veronica. The name was like a sharp blade, the tone so intimate it made me tremble, like discovering a grave mistake in a design project. With frozen hands, I opened the message and dozens of lines appeared, exposing a horrifying secret. Ethan, the husband I loved, was having an affair with a 50-year-old woman he called the fire that burns my life. In that moment, I stood there, my vision blurred as Ethan walked into the kitchen, his familiar smile fading instantly when he saw the phone in my hand, like a client realizing their design had been destroyed. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I looked him straight in the eye, my voice calm but sharp, like the blade I had forged in moments of doubt. Who is Veronica, Ethan? And why does she call you my love, while I, your wife, am here preparing your breakfast? He turned pale, stammering out a few weak denials, like an employee trying to cover up a mistake. But the truth was already exposed, like sunlight shining through a fragile pane of glass. Ethan didn't apologize. Instead, he scoffed, his voice full of contempt. You want the truth, Lily. I'm sick of this fake life Veronica gets me. She makes me feel alive, unlike you, always busy with that pointless studio of yours, thinking you're some talented designer when you're just a dreamer, chasing illusions. His words cut deep into my heart like a twisting knife. But before I could react, he stepped forward, yanked the phone from my hand, and shoved me hard to the floor, as if I were nothing more than a worthless decoration. My head hit the edge of the table with a sharp pain, and I felt blood trickle from the corner of my mouth. Don't think you can control me, Lily, he growled, his eyes flashing with a fury I had never seen before, like a saboteur deliberately smashing a perfect design. You're nothing. Then he turned and walked away, leaving me there, heart shattered, but with a fire slowly igniting inside me, like when I'm determined to rescue a project that seems doomed to fail. The next day, I checked our joint savings account, the one holding hundreds of thousands of dollars from our years of hard work, and my heart stopped when I saw the balance at zero. Like a contract canceled without explanation. Ethan hadn't just betrayed me with Veronica, hadn't just beaten me mercilessly. He had stolen everything we had built together. But the most shocking of all was the message he sent right after, like a final stab to the heart. Lily, I took all the money to start a new life with Veronica, a glamorous world you could only dream of. Don't waste your time searching. You'll never catch up. 3 years with you was a nightmare, and this money is the price I deserve. Who do you think you are? Some second-rate designer. Haha, good luck surviving with your pile of debt. And that stupid studio. I read the message every word, like a flame scorching my pride. His arrogant and insulting tone, trying to crush every bit of my worth. He thought I would collapse, would beg him to come back. But as I stood up from the kitchen floor and wiped the blood from my lips, I whispered to myself, "You're wrong, Ethan. This is not the end. This is the beginning of your reckoning." I locked the apartment door, opened my laptop, and began a sharp plan like sketching a new design from the ruins. The signs had crept in months before, like cold winds warning of an approaching storm, but I chose to ignore them, hoping it was just work pressure, like when I overlook a small detail in a design project. Ethan started coming home late, claiming meetings with important clients, but the scent of expensive perfume on his shirt wasn't mine, like a mistake in a design's color palette. He grew irritable, criticizing everything I did, from how I ran the studio to the dresses I picked for evening events. Like a dissatisfied client questioning every decision. He set a new password on his phone, and when I asked, he sneered. "You're too suspicious." Lily, like a child who doesn't trust her husband, always obsessing over nonsense instead of caring for me. I wanted to believe our love was strong enough to weather the storm. But deep down, a bad feeling quietly grew, like when I sense a project veering off course. 3 months ago, I accidentally found a hotel receipt in his jacket pocket for a luxury place we had never visited together, like a detail that didn't match the blueprint. I didn't confront him right away, but I began to take notes, quietly observing and preparing for the worst, like when I double-check every detail before presenting a major project. I opened a separate account, gradually transferring profits from the studio into it carefully, like how I design every piece of furniture for a client, ensuring no flaw is left exposed. After the blow that day, I went to the hospital, my mind spinning but my will sharp, like when I work under pressure from a big contract. The doctor confirmed bruises on my shoulder, wrist, and a small cut on my lip, and they advised me to report to the police immediately. I didn't do it right away, like a designer holding onto a draft until it's finalized. I knew Ethan would deny it, and I needed evidence to ensure he couldn't escape accountability. I returned to the apartment that had once been filled with laughter, now cold like an abandoned home, like a design space left unfinished. I checked our bank account, and my heart shattered when I saw hundreds of thousands of dollars gone, like a project canceled at the last minute. Ethan hadn't just withdrawn the money, he had transferred it to a secret account, one I had no access to. I called the bank, and the staff confirmed that Ethan had made the transaction right after leaving the house that morning with a smug grin. I could clearly picture like a saboteur leaving the scene. But I held back tears, like when I stay composed in front of a difficult client. I opened my laptop and searched for information on Veronica. She was a wealthy real estate investor, 50 years old, known for her lavish lifestyle and complicated relationships, like a character stepping out of an extravagant yet mysterious design. She met Ethan at a financial conference, and since then he became her puppet, enchanted by money power and the promise of an elite life, like a client drawn to an unrealistic concept. That night, sitting alone in the apartment, I allowed myself to face the pain, like when I look back at a failed project to find ways to fix it. I remembered the early days of our marriage, when Ethan held my hand under the sunset, promising we'd conquer the world together. I remembered the late nights, laughing about our big dreams, about the beach house we'd buy someday. But then I thought about the blow, about the cruel messages, about how he called my studio meaningless. Tears fell, but I wiped them away, whispering to myself, "I'm stronger than this. I won't let him destroy my dream." I contacted a lawyer, Claire, an old friend from college, who specializes in divorce and asset disputes. "Lily, he made a huge mistake putting his hands on you and draining the joint funds." Claire said, her voice filled with determination, like a colleague committed to saving a project. "We'll need evidence, but if you can prove his actions, he won't just lose everything. He'll face legal consequences." I nodded over the phone, feeling like a flash of light had pierced the darkness, like when I find a breakthrough in a seemingly impossible design. I began collecting evidence from screenshots of messages between Ethan and Veronica to bank statements and medical records from the hospital. I knew I couldn't let emotions take over like when I maintained professionalism in front of a client. This was a battle, and I would fight it with intelligence. The next day, Ethan called, his tone condescending, as if he still had everything under control, like a client who thinks they can dictate the entire project. "Lily, don't blow this out of proportion. You can't beat me. Veronica has connections, has money, and now I'm part of a world you'll never reach. Consider it a favor that I'm letting you keep the apartment, but don't expect anything more. Oh, and tonight, I'll be at a big party with Veronica. And I'm planning to tell everyone you cheated on me, that you're the reason our marriage fell apart. I'll make sure no one in the design world wants to work with you again." My blood boiled, but I kept my voice calm, like when I negotiate with a demanding partner. "Ethan, you think you know me, but you're wrong. We'll see each other soon, and I hope you're ready for what's coming." I hung up and immediately contacted a private investigator, someone Claire had recommended. "I need every piece of information on Ethan and Veronica," I said firmly, like when I asked my team for detailed inputs on a major project, accounts, transactions where they met their past, everything. The investigator nodded, eyes reflecting professionalism like a reliable collaborator. "You'll have it in a few days. And I promise to find something they can't deny." While waiting, I returned to my design studio, where I had poured sweat and tears to build a beloved brand like a work of art polished over years. My team noticed the change in my eyes, no longer the cheerful Lily, but a woman with a burning determination, like a designer ready to face any challenge. They didn't ask questions, just quietly supported me, bringing fresh ideas and making sure all projects ran smoothly, like a united team under pressure. But there were moments I stood alone in my office, looking at framed photos of Ethan and me on the desk, and my heart twisted like when I look at a design that can no longer be saved. I wondered if I was wrong to love him, if I deserved to be treated this way. Doubt crept in. But then I looked outside, saw my staff working with passion, and reminded myself, this is my dream, not his. I'll protect it. I couldn't let the studio collapse. Not because of Ethan, but for myself and those who believe in me, like when I fight to keep a big contract. A week later, I received news from a major client who suddenly canceled a contract after hearing rumors from Ethan that my studio was in financial trouble, like a project sabotaged by a competitor. I felt the ground fall beneath me, like when a design is rejected at the last moment. That night, I sat alone in the office, staring at the canceled contract, wondering if I had the strength to go on. Tears quietly fell. But then Anna, my young assistant, walked in with a cup of hot tea. "Miss Lily, the client didn't cancel because of you. They just believed lies. But look at how many people still believe in you," she said, her voice gentle but full of energy, like a colleague reigniting the spirit. Her words pulled me out of the darkness like a new idea saving a failed project. I wiped my tears, opened my laptop, and prepared a new presentation. 2 days later, I met with the client again, presenting a design plan that left them amazed, like a flawless work of art. Not only did they re-sign the contract, but they also referred new partners like a victory in a high-stakes negotiation. I realized Ethan might try to ruin me, but he could never take away my talent and determination, like a designer who always finds a way through every obstacle. The detective's report arrived after 3 days, and it was like a bomb exploding every assumption I had, like when I discover a detail that changes the entire direction of a project. Veronica wasn't just Ethan's lover. She was using him to launder money through shady real estate transactions, like a hidden design scheme. Beneath a glossy surface, Ethan, as her financial advisor, had helped her conceal millions of illegal dollars in exchange for luxurious gifts and promises of an elite lifestyle, like a client enchanted by an unrealistic concept. But the most shocking part was Veronica's past. She had been convicted of defrauding dozens of investors 10 years ago, stealing millions from middle-class families, but got out early thanks to an expensive legal team and shady connections like a saboteur dodging accountability. The report revealed that Ethan had transferred our joint savings into an account under Veronica's name, thinking I would never find out, like a mistake in a financial plan. Moreover, the detective found out Veronica was planning to flee the country, taking the illegal money, and leaving Ethan behind as a scapegoat to face the consequences, like a partner abandoned in a failed project. Ethan had no idea he was just a pawn, and Veronica had recorded their conversations ready to turn him in if she ever got cornered. But the biggest twist that chilled me to the bone, Veronica had once contacted my sister Emma, pretending to be an investor to lure her into a fake real estate scheme. Fortunately, Emma declined at the last minute, like a client who narrowly avoided a flawed design. Knowing Veronica had targeted my family didn't just enrage me, it made me determined to completely destroy their plan. Like when I fight to protect an important project. I immediately called Emma, and we sat for hours in her apartment sharing everything, like when I discussed with a trusted colleague. Emma said she had also once suspected Veronica, but never imagined she was involved with Ethan Lilly. "You're not just fighting for yourself," Emma said, holding my hand tightly, eyes brimming with tears. "You're protecting people like me, people who almost lost everything." In that moment, I felt the power of family, like how my mother used to teach that family is the safest place, like a design space that brings peace. Emma promised to support me, and even agreed to appear at the party to confront Veronica if necessary, like a teammate ready for battle, determined to protect Emma and others. I contacted Margaret, a former victim of Veronica, that the detective had found. Margaret, an older woman with sorrowful eyes, said she had lost her entire savings because she trusted Veronica's investment promises 10 years ago. Like a client deceived by a fake design. "I don't want her to ruin another family," Margaret said, her voice trembling like a collaborator sharing the pain. I arranged a secret meeting with Margaret and 3 other victims of Veronica, listening to their stories. Broken dreams, sleepless nights from debt. Like when I hear clients talk about their failures. Every word they said added fuel to the fire in me. Together, we gathered more evidence from fake invoices to fraudulent letters, forming an indisputable file. Like a detailed blueprint for a major project, I promised them. "We will make her pay, not just for me, but for all of you." I shared the detective's report and the victim's files with Claire, and she nearly jumped up with excitement like a colleague who found the perfect solution. "Lily, this isn't just a divorce anymore. This is a criminal case. If we play our cards right, Ethan and Veronica won't just lose money, they'll lose their freedom," she said, her voice full of determination. I nodded, but inside, I felt a mix of pain and resolve, like when I face a challenging project. I didn't just want to take back what was mine, I wanted them to pay for what they did, to me, to my sister, and to the dozens of Veronica's other victims. I started taking action step by step, with the precision of a jeweler crafting a masterpiece. Like when I design a perfect interior space. First, I contacted the bank, providing evidence that Ethan had withdrawn joint funds without my consent. Like when I request a correction to a flawed contract. The bank agreed to freeze the recipient account until a court decision was made, stopping Veronica from touching our money like a project put on hold. Before completion, next, I submitted medical records and an abuse report to the police, requesting a restraining order against Ethan from coming near me or the apartment, like when I protect a design from unwanted interference. The police acted swiftly, and Ethan was summoned for questioning the same day, like a rival being called out to face the truth. He called me right after, his voice filled with rage and panic. "What do you think you're doing, Lily? Calling the police? You'll regret blowing this up. Veronica and I have power. You can't even imagine. And I'll make sure you lose everything, from your studio to your reputation." But I wasn't afraid like when I face a client threatening to cancel a contract. I replied, my voice calm but icy. Regret is something you'll be feeling, Ethan, not me. And by the way, I know about your plan tonight, how you're going to smear my name at the party. Go ahead. I'm waiting to see what you'll do when the truth comes out. I decided to beat Ethan on the very stage he chose, the glamorous evening party he planned to use to destroy my reputation like a conference where I would unveil a breakthrough design. I contacted a close friend, Sarah, who had connections in the event industry. Sarah, I need an invitation to tonight's party, I said firmly, like when I request support for an important project. And I need a moment to speak to. Let everyone hear the truth. Sarah hesitated, but once I briefly explained what Ethan had done, she immediately agreed. Lily, I'll make sure you have the stage. Do what you have to do, and I'll be there to support you. I prepared carefully, choosing a fiery red dress, not to show off, but to assert that I hadn't fallen like a bold design that captures every eye. I brought with me a USB containing the evidence, Ethan's messages, the detective's report, victim files, and a recording the detective had obtained, in which Veronica admitted she only used Ethan as a tool, like a detailed blueprint ready for a major presentation. The party took place in a luxurious hotel attended by elites, including my colleagues and clients, like an international conference drawing. Every gaze, Ethan and Veronica arrived hand in hand, he in an expensive suit, she in a sparkling dress, both wearing smug smiles, like keynote speakers thinking they were the stars of the event. Emma stood beside me in a corner of the room, her eyes sharp as she watched Veronica like a teammate ready for battle. I observed my heart pounding, but my mind clear, like when I prepared to present a design to a tough board. When Ethan stepped up to speak, beginning to spin the lie that I had deceived him and pushed him out of the marriage, I knew my moment had come, like when a project reaches its climax. I raised my hand, my voice cutting through, clearly interrupting him. If no one minds, I'd like to share another perspective, to shed light on the truth behind Ethan's story. Ethan turned pale, but the host warned by Sarah nodded in approval like a partner backing my plan. I stepped onto the stage, everyone's eyes fixed on me like diners awaiting a surprising revelation at a major conference. I wasn't nervous, just like when I present a thoroughly prepared design. I plugged the USB into the projector, and the large screen displayed Ethan's message, where he bragged about withdrawing the money and called me worthless. I played a recording of Veronica's voice, cold and sharp. Ethan is an easily manipulated tool. When I leave, he'll be the one to take the fall. I presented files from Margaret and other victims with numbers and stories that silenced the room, just like a groundbreaking design that leaves everyone speechless. Emma stepped up, looking straight at Veronica. You tried to scam me, Veronica, with your fake investment promises, but today, you're not getting away. The banquet hall was dead silent, then whispers erupted like waves crashing after a sudden revelation. I looked Ethan in the eyes, my voice calm but piercing. You want to tell your side of the story, Ethan? Here's the real one. You hit me. You stole our money and you helped Veronica launder dirty cash, ruining dozens of families. But today your game is over, not because I seek revenge, but because truth is always stronger than lies. Veronica tried to get up and leave, but I had already alerted the detective who was waiting at the door with the police, like a precisely executed plan. Ethan froze in place, panic in his eyes as I concluded. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to reclaim justice, not just for myself, but for everyone you and she exploited, from families who lost their savings to those who believed your false promises. The hall erupted in applause, not because I won, but because the truth had been revealed, like a conference ending with thunderous claps. Ethan and Veronica were taken away by the police right at the party, under the stunned gaze of everyone like saboteurs, exposed before the public. I stepped down from the stage, head held high, feeling a new power flow through my veins, like a design recognized by the whole world. Emma hugged me and whispered, Mom would be proud of you. But when I returned to my apartment that night, I sat alone holding the old wedding photo frame and let the tears fall, like when I face a failed project. Not because I lost Ethan, but because I lost myself in the blind years of believing in him. I thought about my mother who passed away when I was young, the one who taught me that a woman should always have a safe place in her soul, like a design space that brings peace. I whispered to her, "Mom, I'm finding that place again. I won't give up." I found an old painting of my mother in storage, showing a woman standing in the middle of a storm, eyes resolute. I hung it on the studio wall as a reminder that I carry her strength inside me like a timeless design. 1 week before the trial, Ethan unexpectedly contacted me, asking to meet at a coffee shop like a client trying to negotiate at the last minute. I agreed, bringing a recorder with me, knowing he couldn't be trusted, just like how I double-check every detail before signing a contract. He sat across from me, eyes tired, and started telling a manipulative story. Lily Veronica forced me to do everything from hitting you to withdrawing the money. I still love you, and I want to make things right. Drop the charges. We can start over like in the early days, when we dreamed of a house by the sea. I looked straight into his eyes, clearly seeing the lies, like spotting a flaw in a blueprint. "Ethan, you chose your path, and these words don't change the truth. You hit me, you stole our money, and you chose Veronica and her world of lies. Don't expect me to trust you again." I stood up and walked away, and that recording became the final piece of evidence, proving he felt no remorse, like a critical detail in a major project. The divorce trial took place 3 months later, and it felt like a perfectly orchestrated justice showcase, like a flawless design presentation. Ethan no longer had his old confidence. He stood there, eyes sunken, wearing a cheap suit, because his personal accounts were frozen, like a client who's lost all credibility. Veronica didn't appear. She was under separate investigation with her assets frozen, and a legal team scrambling to keep her out of prison like a competitor knocked out of the game. Claire presented undeniable evidence. Ethan's betrayal messages, the abuse records with photos of my bruises, the unauthorized withdrawals, his role in Veronica's illegal activities, and the coffee shop recording. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes, didn't hide her contempt as she looked at Ethan. "Mr. Ethan, not only did you betray your wife by cheating and abusing her, but you also intentionally stole shared assets and got involved in criminal activities. Do you have anything to justify your actions, or are you going to keep blaming others, like in this recording?" Ethan mumbled a few weak words, saying he was manipulated by Veronica, that he didn't mean to hurt me like an employee trying to excuse a mistake. But Claire interrupted, her voice sharp as a blade. "Your Honor, the messages Mr. Ethan sent to Ms. Veronica show he was proud of hitting his wife and stealing their money. He even planned to defame Ms. Lily at a public event. This is not manipulation. This is intentional, and he must be held accountable." The judge nodded, and the final ruling was a powerful blow. I kept the apartment, the design studio, and was reimbursed the full amount of our joint savings from the frozen assets of Ethan and Veronica. Ethan received nothing but a mountain of legal debt and a permanent restraining order, like a competitor removed from the game. I walked out of the courtroom, stopped in front of a mirror in the hallway, and looked into my eyes, no longer a betrayed wife, but a woman who had won like a designer, finishing a masterpiece. "I did it," I whispered, feeling a new strength rise from deep within, like when a project is recognized by the world. Justice didn't stop at the courtroom. 1 week after the trial, Ethan was arrested for his involvement in Veronica's money laundering scheme. Like a final saboteur being captured, news spread across the city, and images of him being led away in handcuffs appeared on the front pages like a failed project made public. Veronica didn't escape either. She was sentenced to 7 years in prison for financial fraud and deception, and her entire real estate empire collapsed like a sandcastle, like a flashy design with no foundation. I wasn't happy about their suffering, but I felt relieved, as if a final burden had been lifted, like a project completed after months of stress. After the trial, I returned to the studio, where my team held a small party to celebrate like the launch of a new design. "You're our superhero," Liliana said, with a bright smile like a colleague honoring my success. I smiled, but deep down I knew I wasn't a superhero. I was just a woman who chose not to let pain define her, like a designer deciding to rebuild from ruins. But there were still nights when I sat alone looking out at the shimmering river and wondered if I could ever trust someone again, like doubting a new design idea. The bruises on my body had healed, but the scars inside still reminded me of the days I once believed I wasn't strong enough. I wrote in my journal, jotting down chaotic thoughts, and one line kept returning: "I don't need to be perfect, I just need to move forward." The studio continued to grow, and I launched a new product line, inspired by resilience and new beginnings. Like a breakthrough design collection, clients poured in, not just for the designs, but because they heard my story and wanted to support a woman who rose from brokenness, like a brand that earned public trust. My story spread, and women around the city began to reach out, sharing their experiences, like clients seeking a trusted designer. From the days of fighting to protect my own dream, I realized I could help others find their light again. Like when I inspire a team. A client, Rachel, shared that she had escaped a toxic relationship after reading the article about me. "You made me believe I deserved better," she said, eyes brimming with tears, like a teammate sharing in a moment of joy. I started a small support group at the studio, a space where women could share and learn to protect their finances and emotions, like a design space created for healing. The group quickly grew, becoming a strong community where people uplifted each other to overcome pain, like a team working on a meaningful project. One evening, when the group gathered, I opened up about my darkest days, about the moment I lay on the kitchen floor, thinking I had lost everything. But I learned that pain is not the end. It's where you find the strength to start again, like rebuilding a design from broken pieces. The support group gradually turned into a small nonprofit, with workshops on finance and confidence for women, like a brand expanding its reach. I invited a psychologist and a lawyer to share their knowledge, but it wasn't always smooth. One time, a member questioned my leadership, saying I was too busy with the studio to manage the organization, like a client criticizing a project. Her comment set me back, but I organized a fundraiser for a women's shelter, and its success proved I could do it, like a design finally recognized. After much doubt, the event drew hundreds, and the donations helped rebuild a housing unit for women in need of a safe place, like a project that delivers long-term value. I realized that each challenge was an opportunity for me to grow, like when a designer learns from their mistakes. 1 year after the divorce, I was invited to speak at a charity event for women who had experienced domestic violence, like a workshop where I shared my vision. In front of hundreds of people, I shared my journey from the days of fake happiness to the moment I stood on the banquet stage and exposed Ethan and Veronica. When I lay on the kitchen floor, blood on my lip, I thought my world had collapsed. But I learned that the darkest days are where you find the light, if you dare to rise. When I told the story of the trial, of how they crumbled under the weight of their own mistakes, the room erupted in applause, like when a design is recognized by the world. But the moment that moved me most was when a young woman, Mia, came up after the speech. "Miss Lily, because of you, I reported my abusive boyfriend to the police. You gave me the courage to start over, like an inspiration, gave me the blueprint for my future." I hugged her, tears rolling down my face, not from sadness, but pride. Like when a project brings value beyond expectations, I realized my story wasn't just a personal victory. It was a flame that inspired others to find their light, like a design that brightens an entire space. My studio now has 3 branches, each one a testament to my resilience. Like a brand that stands strong through every challenge, I launched a small scholarship fund to support young women in studying design and business, so they can build independent futures, like a project that brings opportunity to the next generation. Ethan's name occasionally appears in the news, but not as a successful financial advisor. He was released from prison after 2 years now, living in a small apartment with a low-paying job forgotten by society like a failed project. No one remembers. Veronica is still in prison, and her empire is now just a memory, like a design that was torn down. I heard Ethan once tried to send an apology through a mutual friend, but I didn't respond, like turning down a contract that isn't worth it. He doesn't deserve my time, and I've learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what you're worth. 3 years after I read that fateful message, I held the 5-year anniversary celebration for the studio at the first branch, like a grand workshop marking a major milestone. Clients, employees, and the entire community gathered, not just to celebrate the studio, but to honor my journey like a project recognized by the world. I stood in a room full of light, looking at the smiling faces around me, and shared a story that wasn't just mine. I used to think happiness was a perfect life with a penthouse apartment and flawless love. But I learned that true happiness is rising from ruin, rebuilding from fragments, and helping others do the same. Like a designer turning an empty space into a work of art. As the party ended, a new employee, also named Mia, asked me about plans for a 4th branch. I smiled and led her to the window where the city sparkled with lights. We'll do it because we're not just building a business. We're building dreams like designs that change the world. I looked at my reflection in the glass. No longer a betrayed wife, but a woman who had turned pain into power. Like a designer creating a masterpiece from ruins. Ethan thought he had taken everything from me, but he had given me the chance to become the brightest version of myself. Like a project completed beyond expectations. And I embraced it without a trace of regret. Before leaving the party, I stood alone by the river, where Ethan and I once promised each other the world. I let the memories pass, not with sadness, but with peace, like the satisfaction of a finished design. Life, I realized, is like this river. It flows through sunny days and fierce storms. There are moments when you feel like you have everything, and days when you think you've lost it all. But I learned that the darkest days are also where you find the light, if you dare to rise and move forward, like a designer who never stops creating. I want to say to anyone listening to this story or going through similar pain, life will test you sometimes in the cruelest ways. There will be people who hurt you, dreams that fall apart, days when you wonder if you're strong enough. But believe me, you're stronger than you think. Don't let pain define you. Let it teach you how to love yourself, how to build a better life, not for anyone else, but for yourself. Like a design made from the heart. Live positively. Keep growing and find joy in the small things. A morning cup of coffee, a smile from a stranger, or a dream you're slowly making real. Life doesn't promise to be easy, but it promises that you can make it beautiful. If you choose to move forward with an open heart, like a designer turning every challenge into a masterpiece.